finances and your personal finance situation. And regardless of what your income level is, how much money you make, or how little you make, or how much more money you want to make, this is really geared to like every single person. And these are like basic concepts that we're gonna kind of talk about. So I read a bunch of financial books over the holidays, and I'm an avid reader. I even read a book on behavioral economics, okay? Don't worry, I'm not going to give you like the whole spiel on that one. But I find it very, very interesting when I deal with people's finances all day. I find it super interesting about people and how they treat money and how they think about money. And so today, what I want to do is I just want to give you guys a little bit of that power around how you think about your money, and maybe just like a few quick things that you'll be able to take away from today that can maybe help you be a little bit more effective with how you actually manage your relationship with money and what you're actually doing with it, okay? So I'm going to be the first to admit that I was not always good with my money, okay? I have been a commission salesperson, so does Jeff. Like, I know we're associated with Royal Bank, but don't think that we get a paycheck. So we're exactly like you guys, right? We eat what we kill, right? And so there's no guaranteed income stream coming in. And this type of career, this type of financial situation can be extremely rewarding, but it can also be very challenging. And I can just tell you that I've been a commission salesperson for over 20 years, and I've slowly been learning by trial and error about what works and kind of what doesn't work. And like I said, I'll be the first to admit that I wasn't always good with my money. And like I said, we're gonna kind of go through some of those things. So really, live for today, but we're gonna save for tomorrow. So this is all our idea. So I love this quote from Tennessee Williams. He says, you can be young without money, but you can't be old without it, right? 100%, right? It's just not cool. And so let's not be, right? Let's make the decision that we're not going to be. And so today I want to help you today. So these are the things we're going to talk about. We're going to share a little research. Let's talk about habits, 7 simple success steps, and then the last part is why RBC. So research shows that 44% of people have financial stress. So what do you guys think financial stress is? Just shout them out.
Not enough money.
Not enough money.
Credit card debt.
Credit card debt.
Loans.
Yep, exactly. So financial stress, the biggest thing, it's not saving enough, right? Spending more than you make, and then being disorganized or unaware of your current finances, okay? So being unaware of your current finances has to do with how much money you're actually spending, how much money you're taking in, and then figuring out how much money you actually need to be saving, right, for your long-term retirement goals. So most Canadians have no idea how much money they need to save in order to reach retirement, right? And I know in our type of industry that you might think, oh, I'm just gonna like do this forever, right? And you've seen those agents, right? And like you don't necessarily want to be them, right? Right? This isn't, you want some type of financial goal. So the biggest thing though is if you think about not knowing your current financial situation, and this isn't about shaming people about their finances, right? So let's just think of it like, I know there's lots of girls, they're all girls except for Jeff and Gary, okay? But like, who has a pair of skinny jeans?
We're in touch with our feminine side.
Right? Like, if you guys have like a skinny jean or skinny suit or something,
Yeah.
right?
I'm working on it.
And
not
so
flattering.
what happens if, so let's just say you're wearing like a lot of your Lululemon pants, you're wearing your jogging pants, and you wear them like day after day, and you're just kind of going about your business, right? And you're comfy, and everything's good, and everything. And then one day, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go out, and you put your skinny jeans on, and guess what? Oh, they don't feel so good. So I like to think about when you're monitoring your finances, and you're thinking about money all the time, it's like you're always preparing yourself to wear your skinny jeans, okay? You know all the time, girlfriend, let's go, so-and-so's going out, let's go to the bar, skinny jeans, put them on, and out you go. You don't even think about it. So your finances should be like that as well, right? You should know immediately, you know, with it, like you should know how much money you have, how much money you're spending, and where your debts are. And the thing is, what happens is that people get like so freaked out about this, and they get so worried about it that they don't even want to look at it, right? So they kind of like put their head in the sand. They're like, oh, I don't even want to know. I know it's really bad, so I'm just gonna like not even bother with it, right? And so if you're sort of in a situation like that, or you have somebody who you know is, like, just give them a little bit of shake and say, okay, you know what? Let's have a different mindset about this, and let's start all over again. So basically, the Canadian Payroll Association, they study people's spending and their saving habits. And I thought this is like unbelievable. They're actually saying that in this report, that 44% of people have a lot of financial stress. That number is up 2% from the previous year. So it was 42 and now it's 44%, right? So things seem to be getting a little bit worse. But what they say is that it doesn't matter how much money you make. Like, I thought that was shocking. So if you make less than $50,000 a year, or you're making like over $100,000 a year, you still have the same type of financial stress, right? The other thing is, they also said that there is definitely a composite in the saving profile of what someone's like financially, okay? So you're gonna be a spender, okay? And then you're gonna be a saver. You have a predisposition to one of those two things. And you know what? Blame your parents, because you probably learned your money composite from your parents, okay? So personally, I know that I'm a spender, and I have to do things to myself to make me not a spender, right? Because that is just, it's in my composite. I also grew up in a household where I didn't have a strong financial coaching, right? And I learned some of my bad money habits from watching my parents. You know, so again, that's just like another thing to blame your parents, to blame your parents for, right? I wanted to be an ice skater, and they taught me bad money habits, right? So what happens is that you translate that through. So for any of you guys who have children, right, these are the things that we want to be really mindful as we're teaching them as they're younger, right? Just because you've been bad with your money today doesn't mean you're going to be not so good with it in the future, okay? So let's talk a little bit about carrying debt. Good debt, bad debt. What's good debt?
Mortgage.
Mortgage, yes, thank God you said that. Anything else?
Investments.
Yeah, so if you borrowed for investments, yeah. Student loans, right? You know, unless you're like 35 years old and you have like 3 degrees and you're going back for a PhD or something, maybe not, right? Maybe start to work, but yeah.
Start to work.
Yeah. So credit cards are like what?
Gold.
Yeah, right?
They're bad.
Yeah.
They are bad. And can anyone tell me just rough idea, what do you think, like let's just say you have like a Visa card, what do you think your interest rate is on that credit card?
Between 19 and 22.
Exactly, 19.99 and 21.99. So basically, credit cards, they're like legal loan sharks, okay? So what happens if you don't pay your credit card balance off each month?
You pay interest.
You gotta pay interest. So for example, what percentage do you think Canadians don't pay their credit cards off each month?
90.
90. Okay, you guys are like really pessimistic. It's not that bad.
I would say maybe close to those
65.
that's under stress.
That's very good, Anna. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
42% of people don't pay their credit cards off each month.
That's actually, I thought it'd be higher, I'm not gonna
Me
lie.
too.
Yeah. So I actually thought it would be higher as well. Now, a reward card, are they really rewarding? So let's just say, for example, that you have a balance on your credit card month to month, and you're getting reward points from that. Okay, so let's say you get, I'm gonna be super like optimistic. Let's say you're getting 2%. Whatever your purchases are, you get 2% rewards, okay? But you don't pay your credit card off each month. So let's say your balance is like $14,000. Per month, the interest that you're paying on that credit card is about $186 a month. So you get 2% rewards on your spending balance, but then you're paying interest on your credit card of 20%. So is that credit card really rewarding?
No.
It's bad.
The only way I see that you use the credit card just to buy and then pay right away.
Exactly.
Must, for
Yeah.
points only, then the points help.
Yes, they do. So like when you actually look at your credit card statement, do you know how many days they give you to pay your credit card balance off? Yes, Anna. It's like we talk.
She's a banker in a former
She
life.
must have been.
That's right.
It's 21 days, right? It's 21 days. It's only 3 weeks,
Yeah.
right? And everybody thinks, oh, it's like a month or something. No, no, no. So let's say, for example, like you had $14,000 on your credit card, and you're like, okay, I paid $5,000 off. So then you think you're going to be paying interest on the difference on the next statement? It's the original amount until it's cleared to zero.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And if you read the tiny, tiny little print, that's what it says. So I want to show you something. So this is
Are you showing mine?
So can you guys read
No,
that?
mine.
Yep.
Yeah. So what does the part? What is the yellow part? What does that say? Read it out.
If you make only the minimum payment each month, we estimate it will take 128 years and 9 months to fully repay the outstanding balance. And our estimate is based on the new balance shown on this statement and your current credit card account.
So the fine print about how they calculate interest is like this little determination of interest. It's that tiny, like I'm like, I can hardly even read. Like I can hardly read it.
Step one, I don't read this at all.
That's
It all, I don't get mailed
This is person who's a
balances
shopper.
anymore.
Lululemon
Two-
today.
2
Yeah.
days ago, I just read a joke. Then they said, "Oh, we celebrate the oldest person who lives." It was about Russia, right? Who lives in Russia? He's 135 years. What make you to live that long? I said, "Freaking mortgage." I said,
Remember, mortgage is good. So this is like, that's crazy, right? 128 years, right? Like just staggering, absolutely staggering. So this is the thing. Amelia Earhart, she said the most difficult thing is the decision to act, and the rest is tenacity, right? So we just have to decide that we don't want to do that anymore, okay? And about 12 years ago, I decided that I didn't want to be that person anymore. Like that isn't who I wanted to be. I didn't want to have a negative relationship with money where money was controlling me. I wanted to control my own money. So I started doing these things called vision boards. Who's done this? You guys do these? So this is an old vision board. So can you guys see what are some of the things on here? This,
Get happy now.
Yeah.
yeah,
Money.
yeah. How many things about money do you see on this?
A lot.
I see that one.
No, I see the thing. No, the
Oh,
financial
yeah.
racehorse.
Yeah. There's a lot about money on here, isn't there?
Probably from the Sky Builder business.
Yeah,
Lottery.
yeah. Not lottery, like
It's funny.
like money, like being focused on it, right? And changing my mindset, and not about accumulating it, but really about being conscious about my money every time I open my wallet and everything. And I'll just give you a small example. So yesterday I was like, I'm gonna go get a tea, and then I had to go home and I had to let the dog out, right? Because like you guys, you're working late in the evening, seeing clients. And then I thought, why am I gonna go to Tim Hortons and pay $1.85 for a tea when I have this thermos that my mother gave me from David's Tea? And I thought, I'll just make a cup of tea while, so that's what I did, right? So it's just small little things. So when you become conscious about money and your spending, and I'm not talking about like don't go to Starbucks or don't go to Tim Hortons, because if that's what you want to do, then budget for it and do it, but just be conscious of it. So this is mine from a couple years ago, right? And so it's a little bit different, but guess what? Still a lot of money stuff on it, right?
I like your superstars.
These are my girlfriends,
This is so great.
right? So, yeah, and I mean that, you know, retirement, income,
Travel.
important
Travel
travel.
is
I'm
good.
also big into doing charity rides, the Ride to Conquer Cancer, stuff like that. But this is all like a quarter of this, like this is like a lot about money, right? Thanks, Jeff. So, there's just one little thing here that I wanted to read. I thought this is amazing. Money is nothing more than a reflection on your creativity and your capacity to focus, your ability to add value and give back. If you can add value for a massive amount of people, it equates to a massive amount of economic abundance, right? So that was a guy, Ray Dalio, right, who's written some amazing books about work and life and principles, and he runs the biggest hedge fund like in the world, right? It's like $160 billion, which is like ridiculous, right? So he kind of knows, right? Money is nothing more than a reflection of your creativity and your capacity to focus. So it's just about focus, and it's just about habits, right? So has anyone heard of James Clear? Yeah, I love that guy. So you can subscribe to his newsletter. Comes out every Thursday. 3 ideas, 2 quotes, and a question. And he wrote a book. So this is the thing that's interesting about James Clear. He's not like a psychologist. He's not like a person that is trained in, you know, human behavioral economics or the science of psychology or how people act. He's just a guy that was super successful, that instituted some basic principles into his life around habits, and so he decided to write a book on the New York Times bestseller list called Atomic Habits. Okay, so basically, habits are attractive when you're motivated to do them, right? And when your motivation is high, it also means your energy level's high, right? It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, right? So if you have like a high energy level at a certain point in your day or in your week, that's the time to think about how you're gonna start to doing your finances. When your energy level is high, your motivation is high, my energy's high, okay, I'm gonna do it Friday morning, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna like go through, you know, and evaluate where I spent my money, et cetera, right?
This ties into the one thing too. Have you read that? The One Thing by Gary Keller. It applies to all things. I'm gonna get you that copy downstairs. It's actually what you're focusing on, like what you're focusing on grows A, but 20% of your activity is what's actually creating 80% of your results. And then tracking when that energy is at its peak and doing that activity in a very focused way. So it ties into this. Who read Atomic Habits? Because that was on my
I have it
list.
on Audible.
Yeah. So this is great. Need to read it.
The other thing is, he says, what triggers your habit? Is it a good habit? Is it a bad habit? Is the environment, your behaviors, what are involved in that actual habit? So really, really thinking about what's your relationship with money like? If you are a spender, which I am, like why am I doing that? You know? Why am I buying that purse or those shoes, or like why am I doing that? What's the psychology around that, right? And so once you kind of understand that, then you start to think, maybe that's not so important. Maybe it's like more important that I actually have, you know, money in my account so that if I have to pay the CRA, I can, right? Or that I'm putting money away for RSPs, right? So the next thing is, he says, you can reduce the friction associated by mapping out the behaviors associated with the process, by identifying the areas where you can automate it or streamline the process. So that sounds super complex, but let me give you an example. Who takes a taxi anymore? Like you have to call, and then you have to wait, and then you look out the door, oh, he's not here yet, and then you get in, and then you gotta pay, right? So there's a lot of friction with that transaction, right? So what happens if you change that, oh, hence Uber, bop, bop, click, click, 3 clicks, walk out the door, sit, don't even have to talk to him, get out, it's done, right? So the same thing with your savings, right? You could totally take out all the friction of saving. So like, how could you do that?
Automate it.
Automate it.
Yeah.
Commission check, made payable to Anna, 10%,
No, 30.
30. Love her, okay?
Yeah.
30, right? So 10 here, 10 here, 10 here. Revenue Canada, HST, retirement.
And we've talked about that as a group, even having like the NCA set it up where Keller holds it.
Yeah.
But is there a better way, like maybe with RBC, there's a way to
There
set
is,
that? Okay, and that's
absolutely.
what I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, and we will come back in a month or so, and then we will tell you guys how we can actually do it. And can actually put it right into an RSP account, which we'll talk a little bit about later, but just is gonna help you minimize your tax liabilities.
TFSA, is it?
TFSA, you can put it in anything you want, right? So the idea is that knowledge is the potential to power, right? But it's not mastery, right? You guys will listen to all this and you can like read that, like you can listen to your Audible book, but if we don't actually execute, then it doesn't help, right? So this is all about execution, right? Even if it's tiny little baby step. So basically execution trumps power, trumps knowledge every single time, right? So it's all about execution. And Tony Robbins is like crazy about that. He'd be like jumping up the table, like execute, change your mindset, you know, redial in your life, develop a plan, a strategy, execute it. Like he's all about that, right?
Yeah.
So why do people don't succeed? What do you think?
They spend too much time getting ready,
Oh, they don't,
preparing to prepare, and
they don't make it a habit.
Yeah.
Telling themselves a negative story.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's rewriting your story. You
Change
can
your
play the
mind.
victim,
Mhm.
right? Or you can choose not to be the victim and be accountable and just hold yourself or have someone else hold you accountable, right?
Exactly. There are strategies in place by people in this room who are probably kind of mastering their money already. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just say, hey, tell me what is it that works for you, right? Tell me what it is that you're doing, and then just do what they do. Just copycat them. Do exactly it, right? Like you don't have to develop your own like strategy, right? Just do what other people do, or successful people that are good with their money. So just replicate it. So to Jen's point, this thing about stories and mindset, and unfortunately, commissioned people, okay, so not just real estate agents, but all commissioned people, we as a whole, we're not very good with our money, right? Because we have this weird, different mindset. We dream about it. We spend the commission check before we get it. I can go on this trip because I know that this house is closing. Like we're already spending the money in our minds, right? As opposed to waiting until we actually have it, or developing a strategy. Ooh, I'm gonna get it, and I'm gonna do this with it, right? So then the other thing is that most people don't succeed because they don't actually take massive action, right? So I'm gonna hand out a money personality quiz, and we're gonna find out. Now, listen, I'm just gonna say one thing. Be super honest. Okay? Be really, really honest. No. No. So no one has to know, Laura. And you don't even tell the person beside you. Just this is your own personal. Does everybody have one?
thank you. Need one more?
One more. And then that's the answer, so. Remember that you can also be more than one personality, right? And like, that's not something you need therapy for, that's okay. Jeff, do you wanna do a quiz? do a quiz.
Let's do it.
It's on the sheet.
This one?
The first one, that one. with the picture,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, you want me?
Yeah, you do a quiz.
Absolutely. All right, let's go.
I like on question 4, when it says, when it comes to credit card bills, the collection guy from Visa and I are on a first name basis. Everything, yeah. Anything you have set aside for
It's
retirement.
invested in the, and it's the investment property.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Investment properties are a great way to fund your own little personal pension, right? Okay, so add up your letters, and then at the bottom, yeah, at the very bottom, so add up all your A's, how many A's you had, how many B's, how many C's, how many D's you have, E's and F's. So you might have, you know, like a lot of like, you might be 2, like you might have a lot of A's and you might have a lot of B's, right? So you might, you know, but, or you blatantly might be absolutely one of those letters, hands down. But you might be a combo of them, so.
Even on the
Which
one
I-
question though, being a combo, like I think about credit card bills, if it's business, it's 100% paid off.
So
Because
related,
we're budgeting, like we're budgeted on a personal side, there may be months where it's less of a payment and then more the next month, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
I
it's
would,
not really 100%.
I would think of it more just personally, like your own personal
Okay.
stuff, not the business, what you're using for business. So does everybody have an idea of what letter kind of you are, more or less?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So, if you're mostly A's, you're a saver. You regularly set money aside, and you make a point to build a cushion for a rainy day, okay? If you're mostly B's, you're a spender. You pretty much spend everything you earn, possibly more than you earn, and you're living paycheck to paycheck. And you often buy luxury items that you cannot afford. So I actually did some financial coaching for this one lady. She's actually a divorce attorney, makes a catastrophic amount of money. And she had about $110,000 of consumer debt. And I'm not talking about a car debt, I'm talking about lines of credit and credit cards. And she was missing payments on her one Visa card, and so the credit card company jacked up the interest rate to 24.99. Right, so again, and you know what, and she would just go out and like buy a $7,000 purse and not even think about it. So, yeah, so again, it doesn't matter how much money you make. So for that particular person, what I ended up doing was something called an anti-budget. So I actually took what she spent in a month, I added everything up and showed it to her in categories. when she actually saw how much money she was spending on luxury items like clothing and shopping, and then I told her how much interest she was paying per month, and then I extrapolated that into 10 years, she like literally went green and almost threw up and said she couldn't believe it. So a stasher, you're an extreme form of a saver. You excessively or unnecessarily worrying about money.
That's Deanna.
No, not that excessive.
So often to the point where you don't enjoy your money or the things that it could buy, right? And you could, this is the one problem, if you're a spender and you're married to a stasher, that's tough, right? Mostly D's, you're a splurger. So you're a splurger if you're an extreme version of a spender. You may or may not spend everything, but you frequently succumb to impulse purchases. You buy large ticket items or buy spontaneously and later regret it. Like seriously, who has like done that, right? Like I totally have done that. I'm like, oh my God, why did I spend, you know, $5,000 in whole run through?
It's in
Right?
the past though, I think
In the
like when
past.
you get to a point where when you start to track your money on a regular basis, and then you've got bookkeepers and accountants actually looking at everything, it's a different level of accountability. You can't get away with that anymore,
Mhm.
especially with our accountant.
So, and there, Jeff, the answers are on that other sheet, so I'll get Jeff to hand that out. So a goal setter, you're a goal setter if you only like to spend your money on items or activities that are budgeted, carefully calculated and or planned in advance. And F, a dreamer. You have a lot of big dreams for material success, but no practical plans about how to reach your goals, right? So what's that about? What's the last dreamer about? What's the problem with that person's money personality?
Procrastination.
Procrastination, but guess what? They have no strategy and they can't execute, right? We
Question.
need dreamers. Yes, go ahead, Aaron.
If it's talking about A and E.
Yeah, like you could be, right? Like I'm,
Exactly like
Deanna.
2A, 2E.
like I am a saver, but I'm also a bit of a splurger, right? You know, like I do that a little bit, so then, you know, I have to budget for that when I feel the impulse, or what I allow myself to do is when I get to a certain point and I say, okay, it's okay to splurge on this money at this time. But it doesn't happen very
Yeah.
often.
But that's where like if you worked hard, yeah, like it's like that. It's
If-
just that enjoyment factor of doing something,
Yeah.
right?
If
Like
you
achieving
like
something.
$350 jeans and that's your thing, right? Or you like to go to the spa, or you like to go away for a weekend, or you want to go on a trip, or whatever it is. Like what, you know, or Jeff wants to buy his son a custom baseball bat, right?
This has happened?
Has happened.
It just happens, yes, we brought it back for
I
him.
brought it back. But the
Very
whole,
expensive bat.
the whole point is that if you know that's the kind of stuff that you like, then just budget for it and use that as motivation for yourself, right? So let's get to the point about 7 steps to master money, okay? So now we know about forming good habits, we know what kind of money personality we are, so now we can really tackle money mastery. So, make the most important financial decision. What do you think it is? Most important
To be
financial
aware
decision
and
of your
focus on it.
entirely. Yeah, but it's even simpler than that.
Save money.
Yes, exactly. Just decide to save. I'm going to save. Which is basically, when you're buying stuff, are you investing money or are you a consumer? Are you making everybody else rich but yourself, right? So, commit to a percentage of saving. So, if you are under the age of 40, approximately, right, just as a guideline, what do you think your percentage should be? Of your income, your gross income, percentage? 20,
A gross?
gross.
32%.
Mine was 30.
So if you could tax
So
30% of your
technically-
gross, then you have.
Yeah,
If you are under 40, it should be 10%. If you're over 40, it should be 15 to 20%.
And if you're over 60,
Then probably
Is that
like,
30%?
probably 30, yeah, probably 30 to 50%, right? So, now, how can you trick yourself?
If you, did you mean like pay it to yourself first, like?
That's
how you-
right.
Yeah,
That's how you trick yourself.
I started doing it in May. Pay
So
it to
if
yourself first,
if
yeah.
you're a spender,
Yeah.
right, which I know that I am, I cannot have that money. I can't have it. I gotta get rid of it. So as soon as my commissions come in, everything is deducted all off in the little pots. Because if not, I will spend it. I know that about myself. I see it and I'm like, yes. I'm like, not so good, right? I just know that about myself. So I try to make it super easy on myself. And most people, that's the way that it works for them. You know, for those of you guys that, you know, are the stashers, right? Like, good for you. Like, that's awesome. You got some amazing DNA in you, right? But not all of us are like that, right? So trick yourself and automate it. And then compartmentalize your savings. So what do you think this means?
Put them in different places.
Different
Not in one basket.
categories.
Exactly.
not all
HST,
eggs in one
tax.
basket.
Yeah. So what are the things that you guys have to worry about, right? So you get your money, right? You get a commission check. What do you guys have to do with that money? So-
HST,
Okay, so here's your checking account, right? So you've got HST, right?
which isn't yours.
Which isn't yours, that's right.
Yeah.
You know how many refinances I do for real estate agents to pay income tax and HST?
Wow.
A lot,
Wow.
a lot. What else? You said income tax?
Income tax.
Let's just put Justin. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Okay, next box. So Justin, I got a big X on it because I don't like him.
Fixed expenses.
Yeah, so let's say that's kind of your checking account, your day-to-day. Well, what other box, right, you might have
Investment.
Mortgage.
emergency fund, right? And then you might have another box which is like say RSPs or TFSAs. Okay,
So emergency box, meaning you get hurt at work and you're not gonna get paid for 6 months.
That's
Which
right.
in the case of a teen isn't the case, but let's just say.
or let's say your car, you have a major expense, right?
Yeah.
Or
Renovations that.
Your roof.
Done.
your roof,
Furnace.
furnace. What happens if your dog gets like super
Yeah.
sick,
Yeah.
right? And it's like $2,000 to or more.
Let's try like.
7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? And what would you not spend on that pet?
Yeah.
And if that's important to you, then that's where you're gonna put your money, right?
Right.
So,
Our
Most-
ESP,
yeah, RSP. So most people do not have different accounts. Most people have a checking account and they have this. So what do you think happens if an emergency comes along?
You go to the credit card.
They go to the credit card, but guess what? Did you know that 30% of Canadians actually treat that as an emergency fund? So, do you guys remember that old adage about jam jars? You know, you put money in here for the jam. So, if you actually had 3 accounts, so if you actually had an emergency account, and then you had a long-term retirement, and you had your checking account, if you actually, studies show that if you actually have an emergency, you'll actually take it from there. But you think to yourself, you go, oh, you know, I got $6,000 in there and I'm feeling good about that. Is that really an emergency? Like, do I have to have those AG jeans, right? Do I have to have them? Is that an emergency? Oh, it's not. It's not, right? It feels like a fashion emergency, but it's not, right? You guys all know where I spend all my money now, right? Have you figured it out on clothes?
Yeah.
1 year I spent $25,000 in after-tax income on clothing.
oh my God.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
You know what? And you know what I did? I took a whole year and I actually didn't spend money on anything, any consumer goods. I had a blog on it. I didn't spend anything, right? I tried, you know how hard that was? I didn't even buy a magazine or a newspaper, nothing. The only thing I would buy are things that I needed was food and running shoes because I like to run. So I'm like, okay, I need a new pair of running shoes every 6 months. That was it. Do you know how liberating that was? And you know how much stuff like I felt like I had in my house? And how many tags I had on things and things that I don't use? So 2 things. I stopped doing that and I also became like a bit of a minimalist, right? Where I just said, you know what, I don't need all this stuff, right? I have an iPhone 7. I'll show it to you. My daughter like shames me about it all the time. I go, there is nothing wrong with that iPhone 7. It works perfectly. I know. I can talk to like people. I can text. I can do everything, right? I don't need an iPhone XR, whatever, right? So basically, it shows that if we have ourselves set up in compartmentalized savings, so if you go away and you do 2 things today, and you only do this, you go, okay, I'm gonna save every check, and then you put 3 accounts, right? Well, and you guys have your HST account, but if you just do that, then you'll be way ahead, like more than 50% of the population, right?
What
Because-
about the saving account instead of emergency account? You call it different way.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, you could just keep adding, right? So you could have your high interest savings account as your emergency account. But I'll tell you, like, I don't have an emergency account, I just have a high interest savings account.
Yeah.
And guess what? Do I ever spend money out of that high interest savings account? I don't, right? And then I never touch and people say, oh, the TFSA, you can take money out if you want. I never take money out of my TFSA, because that's like 3 levels down. Yeah, Joe?
Question. For those high interest savings accounts or for savings accounts in general, what's the max you can have in an account before they're not technically insured and you should be waiving it? That was like a stupid question.
It's
100,000.
100,000.
100,000 per
Really?
corporate entity at RBC. So
Okay, what about if
RBC
there's
has
a
5.
savings account there?
It's 100,000 of deposit.
Yeah, so because RBC has 5 corporate entities, you can have up to 500,000 in an account,
Okay,
right? Or 5 100,000 accounts, I should say.
500.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so
So the idea of compounding and starting early is super important, right? Leveraging compounding and starting early. So basically, I thought this was interesting. If you start early, earned income never bridges the gap between where we are and where we want to be when we're compounding because it's too powerful. Do you guys know what I mean by that?
can you say that again?
No.
So if you start early, earned income never bridges the gap between where we are and where we want to be with compounding. Okay? So if Jeff started when he was, 25 and he started saving, the power of compounding is way more powerful than me starting to save at 40 and making 3 times his income. I will never be able to catch up to him because he started so early.
Sooner better.
Yeah, and so that's basically it. So has anyone heard like the rule of 72? Gary, what is that?
I know,
Just try to explain it
I
the
can't.
okay. So the rule of 72 is your money is going to double with the factor of your rate of return divided by 72. So let's say your rate of return is 10%. So 10% divided into 72 is 7.2. So that means in 7.2 years, your money is going to double. So that's like amazing.
And
is
what
amazing.
interest rate?
10%. So
Based
that's
on
the
your
rule
rate
of
of return.
72, your rate of return, yeah.
So we have the saving accounts like that.
No. It's based on what you're invested in, right?
Yeah.
But could you imagine, like, it's not a good review just because I like work for the Royal Bank, so I like Royal Bank, but anyway. Royal Bank stock, okay, in the last 2 decades earned an annualized rate of return of 14.1%.
How much of those 14.5% went to,
Was dividends?
increase it, yes, how much you have to pay
It's
for-
included in that number. Without dividends, it was like 10.1. So 14% over the last 2 decades, like that's incredible, right? So, I mean, I'm not advertising saying, oh, invest in this, because I'm not licensed to tell you, but I'm just giving you that as an example of how things can compound, right? So why don't we act? Because we think we can't, we think we don't have enough money, right? We start telling ourselves all these stories about why it won't work, and then we have all these other financial obligations and things like that, right? But I'm telling you, being savvy with our money, it is what it's like, it's becoming in vogue now, right? Being conscious financially about what we're spending. So we should always be saving for tomorrow. So by saving for tomorrow means always save more money every year. So if we make more, do we spend more? Absolutely. So what should we be doing?
Save more.
Save more. So when I tell my clients, so there's this one feature on an RBC mortgage that is, you can increase your payment every year by up to 10%. Okay, so let's just make it easy. Say your mortgage payment is, $1,000 a month. So every year you could increase that by 10%. So what I tell clients is that if you get a raise every year, right? Then, or you make more money every year, you should be increasing your debt repayment and your savings by the same percentage, right? So if you made 4% more income than you did last year, then increase your mortgage payment by 4%, right? It's not gonna take up that whole amount of income, it's just taking up a little bit of it, right? So to keep your savings and your debt repayment in line with your income, right? If you actually did that and just increased your mortgage payment like the 10% every year, you'd have no mortgage in 15 years, right? And it's painless.
You're talking about monthly payments, right?
Yeah.
Not monthly.
It's painless because why is it painless? Because it's automatic, right? And the money's gone and then it's just gone and you don't worry about it anymore, right? Okay, so step 2, be an insider, know the rules. So this is the part that gets a little bit complicated. Do fees matter? What kind of fees? So when I'm talking about fees, what fees do you think I'm referring to when we talk about investments?
Administration fees.
Administration fees, yeah. And there's 3 letters, MER. Does anyone know what that means? Management expense ratio. Does anyone here own a mutual fund? Okay. The mutual fund, how does a mutual fund, like, they gotta make money. They make money by managing the money for you, right? So they charge a percentage to manage that money, because nobody does it for free, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at fees on mutual funds, and I'm not here to like poo-poo mutual funds, right? Because there's lots of really good ones out there. But if you looked at maybe like a index fund or something like that, the MER on it might be 0.55%, so 55 basis points. So what that means is that if you have $100, 55 cents goes to the mutual fund company, okay? So what if I told you that most MERs on funds are closer to 255 basis points? So now $2.55 goes to the mutual fund company. So over like a 30-year period, how do you think that affects your return?
Dramatically.
And are those calculated on your initial investment or your current market value?
Ones that can be
Mutual
front-ended
funds.
or deferred.
It's basically calculated on, like, it's charged to every cent. So if you have $1,000 in the fund, it's that percentage on 1,000. And then if the next year you have 1,500, then it's calculated based on 1,500. So it's always calculated on whatever your balance is. So basically, you could diminish your actual return by about 30%.
Well, and you could lose money 1 year and you're still paying.
Yeah,
on
like,
balance.
so that's a super good point. So let's just think about that. So I'm gonna give you my money. Okay, so let's pretend Jeff's a mutual fund company. We'll pick on Jeff. Jeff's a mutual fund company. I give Jeff $10,000. And Jeff's like, thanks, great. So Steph, by the way, it's gonna cost you 255 basis points. I'm like, okay. He goes, don't worry, I'm like super smart. Look at me, I got a nice blue suit. I'm gonna outperform the market. I'm gonna make you a ton of money. I'm like, okay. And he goes, but just saying, every year you still have to do the 2.55%. I'm like, okay, no problem. Okay. Now, guess what? Guess what happened in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010? Guess what? What happened to my $10,000?
Eroded.
It was $6,000. But guess who's still got his 2.55%? Jeff.
In his blue suit.
Ooh, his blue suit.
How I got it.
That's how we
Buy
got it.
another baseball bat, right? What?
He got a nicer blue suit.
Yeah, just like upgrading. So you know what? That kind of stinks. Like I'm gonna take all the risk. He's not gonna guarantee my initial investment, but I have to pay him for losing my money? Ugh. I mean, you're gonna lose money eventually, right? But you know, eventually it will come back, which is another topic. We'll talk about that. So really the long-term effect, like I said, is that you're losing, depending on the MER, you're losing anywhere between, 20 to 30% on the long term. So what percentage of actively managed funds beat the market? So actively managed, okay? So I'm not talking about index funds or ETFs or anything like that. And if I say the word ETF and you have no idea what I'm talking about, we'll get to that. But basically an index fund or an index fund, they may mimic a group of stocks related to the stock exchange. So a S&P 500, that's an index, and you can buy an ETF or an index fund that just mimics what they do. So it's not actively managed. It's not reading and trying to figure out that, Microsoft is going to do this or Lululemon stock is going to do this. It's not actively managed. So what percentage of those guys in the blue suits are actually outperforming the market?
10%. 3%. Did you say 10?
10? Anybody else?
I'm saying 3.
3?
25. I'll be optimistic this time.
So Laura, you're pretty much right. 96% of actively managed funds do not outperform the market. Now, there are some unicorns out there, right, that do that. And some people, if they have large portfolios, they may even go to a broker or an advisor, right? And then there's fees and things that they pay to them. But basically, most actively managed funds don't beat the market. Now, I am going to share something with you in just a second here. So, the one thing is about being an insider is also about like tax consequences, RSPs and TFSAs. Can someone tell me really quickly what's the difference between the two?
TFSA is withdrawal without penalty.
And there's a maximum balance.
Yes.
It's a lower maximum that you can contribute every year.
What kind of money do you put into a TFSA?
General savings.
Yeah, but it's basically after tax.
Yeah, net money.
And so what's the benefit of a TFSA
We don't
later
have to
down the
pay
road?
taxes.
You don't pay tax.
You don't pay taxes on it, right? So with an RSP, you put money in, right? It's tax sheltered, but you also get a credit back, right? You get a tax receipt for putting in that money. So a registered retirement savings plan, if you put $10,000 in, you would get a tax refund of about $3,500, right? So sometimes when we're talking about automated savings and things, if you know that you may have a tax bill at the end of the year when you're doing your income taxes, it may be more advantage for you to actually put money into RSPs because it would minimize how much tax you have to pay Revenue Canada. So just really quickly, I had a realtor call me last week and she says, it looks like I'm gonna have to pay $11,000 to Revenue Canada in taxes. And I said, okay. I said, do you have any unused RSP room that you haven't taken advantage of? If you actually look at your notice of assessment, it'll tell you that you've got years of unused room. And she goes, yeah, I have about 48,000. And I go, okay. I said, so let's think about it this way. If you were to take that money and pay that directly to the government, but what if you actually made a tax, like what if you actually made a contribution to your RSP, then you could offset the taxes you have to pay and then you get to keep that money rather than giving it to the government, right? And she goes, well, I don't really have money to do that, right? And I go, well, you have a secured line of credit on your house or you could get an RSP loan, right? So she ended up actually doing an RSP loan, amortized it over a year, and then she ended up only having to pay about $2,800 in tax.
What's
So
the
doesn't it make
RSP deadline?
Yes.
March first.
Okay.
So for you guys,
Right in
like
there.
for you guys as realtors, get your taxes like organized early. Like I've already got mine all done and everything, right? Cause I'm commissioned like you. I got all my spreadsheet. I'm ready. I'm ready for the stuff to come, right? Because I wanna know before March first, when I sit down with my accountant, if I'm gonna have a tax bill. Because if I am, I'm gonna try to leverage my retirement savings as much as I can because I don't wanna give any more money to Justin Trudeau, right? Right, I'd rather keep that money, even if I have to get a loan, right? So again, when I talk about automated, if you have an RSP loan, what are you making yourself do? You're forcing yourself to save, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Question, if
Yeah.
let's say you have to pay to the government $30,000,
Yeah.
you still have to pay to RSP, if it allows you, right, based on notice of necessity.
You would, so if you had a $30,000 tax bill, approximately, you'd have to have unused room of like maybe 70, 80,000 of unused room
That's
to
right.
offset that.
Yes.
Yeah. So personally for me, over the last 10 years, my goal was to use up all of my RSP room, right? Because I had a lot, right? Because remember I used to be a shopper and a spender. And I achieved that goal 2 years ago. And now my goal is to maximize my TFSA, to put in the maximum amount every single year, right?
When can, question about
Yeah.
RSP, because like I have some pension, like retirement, retired people, clients and they say like, well, when do I start to get those money without paying huge taxes?
Right, we would,
The age of 65?
no, at the age of 71, you have to convert your retirement savings into a RIF. And then they start getting a schedule where they start drawing a little bit of money out.
Before that, you will not be able to.
Well, you could take the money out if you want, right? But
Like
the
in the
government
taxes.
says, hey, you're 71, you're getting up there. Put that money, roll it over into a lift to start taking it out. Because the government ultimately wants they want their tax. So the whole idea of this is that if you're kind of starting out in the business and you're not in a high marginal tax rate, it probably doesn't make sense for necessarily for you to do RSPs. But what would it make sense for you probably is to do a TFSA. So most, millennials are doing TFSAs now, right? Because they have lower income levels and they don't need the tax break of an RSP, but it makes sense for them to do a TFSA, right?
Up to what percent you can put every year on the TFSA?
So a TFSA, the total amount, if you've never contributed anything since it started in 2009, is $69,500.
Yeah.
I think it's just every year, 5 years, 5,000.
55.
There was 1 year when Harper was our prime minister the last year, he said we could do 10, and then Justin Trudeau came along and said, no, now you can only do
Oh, shoot.
5,500. So if you add it all up, it equals 69,500, okay? So the idea of the TFSA is that money can grow and grow and grow, and you can take it back out, and then if you ever need that money for like a huge emergency, right? Like both of, Angela's dogs got sick, right? She could put the money back in the next year, right? So just because you used it doesn't mean the next year you can put it back in, right? And you know what, and we could always have a follow-up on this because we could talk an hour about this. So what does don't sabotage yourself mean?
No excuses.
Don't take the money out.
Yes.
In
Keep
2009,
them.
so the last 10 years, the average rate of return on the S&P 500 was like 14.7%, okay? How many people do you think over the last 10 years that were invested in it actually made money? 6%. You know why? Because they took their money out. Because they thought they were smarter than everybody else, right? You are not smarter. You don't know what's going to happen with the cannabis stocks. You're not smarter. It's like going to Las Vegas and going to the Wynn and sitting and playing poker with the world's best poker players in the world. And they have all the research and everything else, and you sit there trying to win. You're not gonna win. So leave it alone. If it bothers you, don't look at it. or change your asset allocation, which we can talk about later. So are you really smarter? Okay, so this is a mutual fund that I invested in, okay? So I read this book and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna check the MERs out, the management expense ratios on my own funds. Do you guys see what that front load is? Does anyone know what that means?
No, I know nothing about this.
Jeff, what does that mean?
So front end load means that the mutual fund company is charging you that premium up front. Okay, so that no matter what that fund performance is over the life that you hold that, you're still going to pay them that amount, right? And it's very difficult to get that out after.
So when I gave my $10,000 to Jeff, he charged me a fee to invest with him. So that, say it was $500. So I had to give him $500, so now I have $9,500 because I had to pay him to invest my money. Then, on top of that, what did he charge me every year to manage my money?
4 point.
Oh, no, sorry.
No,
You're
it's
right.
two,
Oh,
it's
2.55.
2.55, yeah. So, I just wanna show you the next thing.
Really?
Okay, so this is what I did. So websites are cool, right? Like knowledge is power. So this I thought was interesting. Okay, so listen, I just wanted to tell you, I owned this mutual fund up until 2 weeks ago. I looked at this and I was like, I'm not that smart. So I couldn't believe this. Okay, so what I did was I compared this, and believe me, this is not rocket science. I went into my direct investing account. I ticked the box compared to US small equity. Then I ticked the box to the S&P 500, which are the major indexes. I just had to tick the box. And I'm like, okay, well tell me how my fund did. My fund did shit.
Yeah.
Those guys, Jeff didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Jeff.
Is this
Bad.
comparing apples to oranges? or
Yes,
apples to
yes,
apples?
yes.
100%.
Sorry, it is apples to oranges?
No, it's
Like
apples
if
to
you're
apples.
lower- Yeah, lower risk versus high risk.
No,
Like,
they're-
is that US small mid cap
They're-
equity?
it's the same.
It's all the same.
It's the same. So
I'm trying to
this,
make a better case for it, so
no,
it
Jeff
isn't so
is
bad for
I
you.
hate him right now. But I hate myself more because I wasn't watching. I wasn't paying
You make more
attention.
money stashing it under a mattress.
Well, I
than
made some money, okay, so let's not beat up Jeff too much.
The mattress will not help.
the mattress.
So you made.
So I wanna tell you that my annualized return, 10 years,
Yeah.
okay, was 7.53, okay? 7.52, that's what I made on the yellow line, okay? Now, the US small equity cap, which is basically what this fund is, IA Clarington, so it basically mimics that portfolio. What does that say, Dan?
12.33.
Okay, so Anna, read that number right there under the S&P 500.
13.56. 13.56%.
So when I say that actively managed funds underperform,
Yeah.
I picked a really bad one. Now, do you guys, if we go back to this, let me just go back to the, so do you see this star? So if you have 1 star, do you think you're really good?
No.
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 5-star would be the best.
Is it
5
3?
star. Yeah, so then the website, this is Direct Investing, Royal Bank, just to make me feel really stupid, they
You
go,
work there.
hey dum dum, here's a whole bunch of funds that have 4 and 5 star ratings, and they actually tell me there are similar funds that actually have a lower MER.
Oh, no way.
Mhm.
So like,
And how long
who
have you
is
been
the
with them?
champion of all this? Like, do you have to look after this yourself, or is there someone that's supposed to be doing this for you?
So that is $1 million question, right? So
So it seems like the information's available,
It
but
is.
if you don't know what you're looking for,
but that's my whole
Right?
point, right?
That's the gap
That's the
here.
whole thing, right?
Thank you for
That's the
this
gap.
training today.
Exactly, right?
So what I'm saying that basically is, have you guys ever heard that expression, what you don't know, you don't know, you don't know?
Yeah.
Right? Like I think actually Gary
We use it all the
Williams
time,
use it all
yeah.
the time, right? You don't know it, right?
You
Like,
don't know.
you just don't know. Like I just didn't know. And I'm in a banking thing and I kind of think I know about finances, but I had no idea. So what you wanna do is you would have maybe a trusted advisor, right? And you can go to the banks and they don't charge you anything to manage your funds, and you just say, look, I went to the seminar, and this girl, Steph
Fired
Edwards,
up.
and I wanna know, what's the MERs I'm paying on my funds? Pull them up right now, and they're like, okay, and then they'll go through it with you. And then you could say, you know what? I shouldn't be really paying more than 2.5%. I think I should be paying around 1.25%. So can you suggest some funds that have lower MERs? Bingo, bango, you just put another 20% over the lifetime of your
So you want
returns.
lower MERs and you want a 5-star rating.
Well, you know what? I think there's kind of a little bit of noise in there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna watch something, in a minute here. So we'll just take it. So, step 3.
Do you have to pay a penalty to transfer? Or does
So
It
on that
depends.
particular fund, have you guys heard something called deferred sales charge, DSCs? What are those?
No.
What are they, Gary?
I don't want to explain because I'll get it wrong. But I know what they are because we used to do mutual funds, so.
So
Jeff?
a deferred service charge is basically, you give me the money, again, I'm the bad guy. And then I lock in your investment for 7 years. So you can't do anything to that money after 7 years. And then once that 7th year comes up, you don't come and talk to me, I arbitrarily auto-renew it for another 7 years. So you cannot transfer that money out. However, if you do decide and you go to the Financial Services Commission of Ontario and say, I want my money out of this financial institution, they will do it, but you are essentially paying me for my services. So if you break it in year 1, you're paying me that amount for the next 6 years on top of that. You will get your money, but it will be drastically reduced as to what you
But
invested in the
7
first
years,
place.
no, they
On the
don't-
7-year, yeah,
On the
so
7th
a
year,
deferred
they-
service charges, if you break, well, however, if you came to me in year 3 and said, I want my money out, you're going to be paying for the remainder of those 4 years.
But if it's after 7 years, you
But
pay.
if you catch it at the 7th year, you can move your money out, no problem. Yeah, but you have to tell me.
In your
I'm not gonna
i-
tell
in your
you.
iPhone 7,
Yeah.
add a reminder.
I know. Well, so like Bell called us and offered like, oh, do you want to try Crave TV for free for 2 months? And my husband's like, yeah, sure. You know what I did? I put it on my calendar
Good for you.
to cancel it right before, and I went and I canceled it. Otherwise, it was like $35 a month. I'm like, there's no way we're gonna get. He's
So
like, yeah,
the-
sign me up. I'm like, what did you just do?
So the government is actually trying to make deferred sales charges illegal. They're actually trying to get rid of them out of the industry, okay, to
That's
take
the
them away.
auto renew part.
Yeah.
That seems like
Yeah.
so
It's so bad.
sneaky.
That's so bad. Okay, so step number 3. So now we're aware of our investments, we're aware of what we're paying. So how do we make the game winnable? Do you know your numbers? So 44% of Canadians don't know how much they need for their retirement goals. And again, what we will do is we will come back at another time and I'm gonna give you a handout, which Jeff, you know, the colored one, the article, right there. So I'm gonna give you this handout and it's basically a guideline to try to figure out how much money you need for retirement, right? And you can do calculators to kind of figure that out, but it just gives you a rough idea, so you guys can take a look at that.
So for me, it's only one week, go and drop it in the bank.
That's right.
it.
So the idea is that if you figure out, has anyone heard of a saying called burn rate?
I have heard.
Gary, one more
Don't
thing, you're
remember what
leaving,
it is.
tell us the burn rate.
Not good.
If you don't get it right, you're going
I
anyways.
plead the fifth.
I've heard it. I don't.
Well,
know
it's
what it is.
basically how much money you're going through in a period of
Perfect.
time.
Perfect,
Yeah.
that's exactly what your burn rate is. So every month, do
should
you
your numbers
know,
in your business.
yes, exactly,
So it's your P&L.
So it's a gate, it's a
You know, your P&L.
You should know how much you have in terms of expenses. So if your business
Oh,
has fees, this, that, and the other,
oh, yes.
you stack that up, that's your burn rate, right? So
and your
it's a-
mortgage, and your
Yeah.
car payment, and your
Yeah,
cell phone
yeah,
bill, right?
Monthly expenses that we
Yes.
talk about,
Yeah,
yes.
so you should have an idea of what your burn, do you put a card in there, in the
Yes.
basket? Yeah, okay.
yeah, so make sure.
So you
get-
should
get
know
me
what
my
your burn
cards,
rate
too.
is, so you should know all your fixed
got you.
costs, your variable costs per month, right?
Yep.
Right, so let's say it's $4,400, you're like, okay, my burn rate is $4,400, right? So when you're trying to extrapolate, like how much money you need for retirement, you know, you have to add that number in. You think, okay, well, if I need $5,000 a month, that means I need $60,000 a year. $60,000 a year times 30, right,
Not
is how much
necessarily.
money you need for retirement.
I would agree 100% because by the time you retire, you may have already paid your loan, a car loan, mortgage, and the rest of the stuff. Then it will go half.
Okay,
You've
so
got
they,
inflation too,
yeah,
right?
you have to think of inflation, you have to
Oh,
think
okay.
of taxes, and
Yeah.
you have to think of what the kind of lifestyle is that you want. But it just sort of gives you a rough idea, right? So then you could go on a calculator, you say, okay, well, if I need $1.6 million when I'm 65 years old, how much money do I have to save right now being 28 years old? I'm not 28, by the way, but.
That's awesome.
Okay, so basically, there's security, vitality, and independence. So security is you're paying all your bills, right? Vitality is you're paying all your bills plus supporting additional lifestyle like travel and spending money and stuff like that. Independence is you do not worry about money at all, right? You have infinite spending ability, right? Like Tony Robbins has financial independence, right? He's got things operating, making him money so that he doesn't have to churn the money wheel, right? So, right. So for us, and that's why investment properties and things can be good, right? But for us, we are gerbils in the wheel of life. We are churning transactions, right? And that's why for us, right, and as women, right? Sorry, Jeff. We
I have a wife
have
and
to be
daughter, too.
super
That's
diligent
right.
about this, right? Because we have to take care of our financial future, right? Right? And we gotta start now. And unfortunately, people don't really teach us this. So, can you speed up your plan? So how can you speed up your plan? Number one, save a little bit more money, cut down on your spending, earn more money, right?
We're good at that,
Right?
Yeah.
Save in fees and taxes, right? So when I talked about fees and taxes, if you've got investments, how much are they actually costing you? How much income tax are you gonna pay? When you're older and you're gonna retire and you're gonna take the income out, are you gonna have too much in RSPs? Like, you know, or like, these are the sort of more complex things that you sort of would think about, right? So the other thing is change your lifestyle, your location. So I thought that was really funny. So Tony Robbins, he used to live in California. Okay. Does anyone know anything about the state of California other than the fact that it's gorgeous?
It's very expensive, yes.
Yeah, it's super
Yes.
expensive, right?
Florida doesn't have, Florida doesn't
No
have taxes.
income tax in Florida.
So
that's
there's no
right,
state
yes.
tax in Florida.
Nevada.
Yes.
Guess where Tony Robbins moved?
Florida.
Florida. You know why?
Because Delaware sucks.
Immediately, yeah, because who wants to move to Delaware? So he immediately gave himself a 13% tax break by moving to another state. Now, okay, we're a little bit different situation because we're Canada, right? They find us wherever. You could move to Alberta, by the way, because they don't have any provincial sales tax,
Yeah.
right?
Who
By
wants
the
to
way.
move to
Exactly.
I know,
The real
everybody.
estate market is a rest right now.
Change your lifestyle.
Yes.
Real
It's
estate.
very
State.
that's
State.
changing the location. A lot of our family friends and friends that are doctors we moved to Houston because
Yeah,
they're
Texas
paying
is the
higher.
other place.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the other thing is say you're living in Aurora, you know, maybe you move to Keswick, maybe you move to Jackson Point, maybe you move, you know, out there a little bit, right? And we see that a lot with people. So that was his suggestion, right? Is if you save more, cut down on your spending, earn more, save in fees, save in taxes, you know, maybe change your life, your lifestyle, your location, right? Like think about that. So step 4, most important decision, asset allocation. So this literally is a 2-hour topic, okay? And I'm gonna give you guys a 10,000 foot overview. There are basically asset classes, so think of equities, fixed income, bonds, emerging markets, like investing overseas. There are all kinds of different asset classes. But there are really only 4 things that move asset classes, and I'm talking about stocks and interest rates and bonds, okay? Inflation, so what's inflation?
Increased cost of living.
Increased costs, yeah, prices go up. So what's deflation?
You go down.
Go down.
Yeah.
Rising economic growth. What era are we in right now? Like what's been happening over the last 10 years?
Specific
Yes.
year or
Yeah. So what's the stock market been doing?
going up?
Up, right? So that is also called a bull market.
Got it.
Okay?
Bowl?
Bull, like a bull,
Holistic.
like a male cow with horns and large
muscles.
large muscles in the lower part. So bull markets are like, "Rrr, rrr," think that. Bear market,
They move slow.
yeah, think about bears. Oh, I'm grumpy, I'm sleeping all the time, I'm hibernating. That's a declining economic growth, economic cycle. So basically, asset classes, right, so I'm talking about equities and fixed income and bonds and real estate and commodities, they all act differently during those different economic cycles. So if there's always gonna be 4 seasons in the year, what would you wanna do with different asset classes?
Choose them according to the season.
Yeah, or, so we live in Canada, right? It's January, what kind of coat will you buy? Warm coat.
Easy splurge.
You need to go back to the
Didn't you
first
get the
slide.
message?
Okay, artificial fur.
You're gonna have a warm parka, right?
Parka.
So then in the summer, Laura, what kind of coat are you gonna have?
Maybe, hopefully no coat.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Maybe a raincoat.
A raincoat,
Yeah.
yeah. What about the spring?
Jackets.
Yeah, jean jacket. What about the fall?
Like,
Oh, I can have like a blazer, I might have a nice sweater. So if you think of the seasons, think about asset classes, saying, I need different coats in the different seasons of the year, right? So that means that I need some fixed income. A REIT is a real estate investment trust. Equities, emerging markets, US equities, Canadian equities, developed markets. When you hear developed markets, that means things like European. So we're talking about, the London Stock Exchange and things like that, right? We're talking about actual developed countries. So basically, you would have a coat, a sweater, a jacket, whatever it is for everything. So one of the most important decisions is because you don't know, right? We already said that we can't guess, right? We can't play poker with the people in Vegas, right? So because of that, we have to have a bunch of these different asset classes, right? We have to have a variety of them in order to have the best long-term results, right? So the percentage that you're gonna have is gonna depend on what your risk tolerance is and how old you are, right? So you have to know your risk tolerance. So really quick, you could take your stage of life, take 100 and minus your age. And that is the percentage of equities, so risky stuff versus fixed income, okay? So if you are 70 years old, 70% is gonna be fixed income. It's gonna be things like bonds and corporate bonds and treasury bills and GICs, because guess what? You don't wanna lose the money, right? You might have only 30%. Now, if you're 40 years old, right, it's a different ratio, right? You can 60% equities, right, because you've got a while to go. And there's all kinds of calculators and things and people that can help you with that. So basically, the other thing is that you would rebalance also based on your risk tolerance. So let's say you have your little asset allocation and you're doing like this percentage, this percentage, this percentage. Well, at the end of 2 or 3 years, you look at it and you look at your portfolio and it goes, oh my God, I have 85% equities. You're like, how did that happen? That doesn't even make sense. Well, how did it happen? Because the equity markets did really well, right? Because remember, we just had an average rate of return of like 15.3%, right? So what happens is rebalancing would be saying, okay, I made some money in the equities, I need to keep 60% because that's what I'm comfortable with. So you would move stuff over, right, into another asset class, right? And this is like super complicated, and honestly, the best thing to do is to sit down with someone who's, not necessarily like a broker, but a financial planner, and really sit down. So the difference between a broker and a financial planner is like going to a butcher and a dietitian. So what does a butcher do?
Sells you meat.
Yeah. What does a dietitian do?
Tells you about how much meat you should eat.
Yes. It tells you what you should eat. It
Yeah.
doesn't say here's this, whatever, right? So really when you go to a certified financial planner, they're a dietitian. They're telling you what it is you should be eating or what you should be investing in.
And I think just being careful on like who you're choosing this person to be.
Yeah.
Just so you know, so I actually invested money in what's called, okay, so basically this was supposed to be safely invested years ago. It was a larger sum of money. And that particular investor actually put it into high income trust funds. And the only reason I caught that I was headed into potential trouble was opened up a statement, it was a little bit lower. I got out just before April that year, the whole thing crashed. But it was someone I trusted, and he actually lost $250,000 of a friend's money, and the wife had passed. That was supposed to be money for the kids. So this is someone I knew and trusted. You have to be, like really should be people that are recommended to us from someone that has seen, they have a track record of providing advice with integrity. Right?
There's somebody in our town that, where I'm from, where, he had lost everyone's money, and they didn't know until somebody went to withdraw, money for their children's education. There was nothing.
Yeah, so
Nothing.
just being careful,
Yeah,
right?
it happens a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe there's a list of names of people that, you know, that
I
you
mean, you just like
recommend or-
interview them, right? Like it's like, you know, it's just like how people interview you guys, right, for real estate.
He was a psychopath or a sociopath,
Right.
this guy, you would have loved him.
Yeah.
Everybody loved him, right? That's
So,
the challenge.
yeah.
It's
So what I
who you
mean,
trust.
you have to think of like, how do people get paid, right?
Yeah,
So, you know, with you guys, you're very upfront, right? Like, hey, yeah, you're gonna pay me 2.5%, and you're gonna pay the other agent 2.5%. The financial industry is starting to regulate itself, so they have to disclose to you how much that they're gonna get paid. So that's why if you go to certain financial institutions, the people are accredited financial planners, and they're not charging you money to sit down with them, right? So. So just really quickly, when I talk about all seasons portfolio, that's what I'm talking about. You have a little bit of everything and you mix it up so that when the market's up, you're doing okay, but when the market's down a little. So I'm just gonna give you a really quick example. So when the 2009 downturn happened, right, the financial crisis happened, if you were 70% invested in equities, you would have lost 63%, okay? Now, if you were split 50-50, you would have lost 33%. Okay?
yeah.
So that just goes to show the power of having a bunch of everything. Now, unfortunately, right now, interest rates are super low, right? Like super low. Like all the old people complain all the time. Oh my God, I'm not earning any money. I remember it, I had a Canada Savings Bond and it was 9.5%. Like it's horrible, right? Like even GICs, you're getting 2.5%, 3%. You're getting nothing. But you know what? That's okay. Because some of your money has to be secure, right? Don't be greedy. You're in it for the long term, right? So the other thing, a little bit to touch on is just about, you guys are all, you're self-employed, you don't have group plans. Think about disability insurance, critical illness, think about life insurance, think about whole life policies, that's where you pay into it, it has an investment component, then you could stop paying in 20 years and then you've got something that's worth money. Sometimes you can borrow against it. That is like a whole other complex topic. But if you are really young, I wish that someone had told me about this when I was in my 20s, was to invest in something like that, right?
I'm paying for my son right now, started like 3 years ago, he's 21 right now, then I
Yeah.
will switch one to get his job.
Perfect. Super important,
I
right?
do have a great, recommendation if anybody's interested.
Absolutely.
Life insurance products.
Yeah.
Somebody
And,
very
and
interested.
realistically, you guys, 1 in 4 of us will become sick or injured that we're gonna miss more than 60 days of work. We should probably all have disability, right?
Even on your mortgage,
mortgage, yeah.
And on your mortgage, you can take it with your mortgage, and it's very efficient sometimes, depending on how old you are. But you should have a standalone policy, right? It doesn't cost
With
much.
your mortgage, I mean, I'm talking more about mortgage insurance, I don't know how it works.
I'm paying right now.
You pay the same amount every month for
You
your
do.
mortgage insurance, even though the amount of your coverage is actually decreasing
It
because
is,
you're paying
yes.
down your mortgage.
It's true, but at the same time, the policy, you never pay more. And if you develop any health concerns or issues, you never get reevaluated on your policy, and that's the problem with term insurance. So mortgage insurance and term insurance, there's like a sweet spot right around the age of like 40 or something, where it does sometimes is more advantage over one or the other.
Well,
But we,
I just want to say, 20 years ago, we figured out with my husband that we'd rather have life insurance for the amount, each of us, for the amount of the mortgage, because we were sure that we'll be selling our house every 3 years, so it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, right? So, and that's, we have this insured both. We paid for 2 of us $1,200
Yeah.
different kind of insurance.
Wow.
Critical and disability,
Yeah.
you become older, you need it all.
you know, the thing is with insurance is you actually don't need insurance until you need insurance.
That's right.
And that's why it's kind of a poopy shitty, it's not sexy to spend money on insurance. It doesn't feel good, it's not good, it's not gonna sit in a closet, you can't wear it, can't drive it.
However, peace of mind, especially, you know, to take insurance out on your kids, critical illness and that sort of thing, it really lets you
It's
focus
super
on what's
important.
important.
That's right. So I have a critical illness policy that I bought like 100 years ago. My girlfriend was an advisor with Sun Life, and I got the first thing, like critical illness came out like, I don't know, 18 years ago, whatever it was. I got the first critical illness policy. It's $100,000. I get my premiums back. How much do you think I'm paying? And I got it like a long time ago, so I was young, right?
You still
$4
pay that
a
on-
month.
$4 a
no.
month.
$92.
Yeah, no,
I'm paying $92 a month, and that was like 18 years ago.
And I'm paying
That's
to
really
save for
cool.
only $25,000 because I'm older than you.
Yeah, so it's expensive. So that's why I'm saying, start young. Think about these things early, get them in place now, and there will be a point, what's happening with our population?
Age.
Aging, that's right.
It's getting to a point where most people are seniors.
Yeah.
And they eventually, insurance companies will have paid out so much on these critical illness policies, they're not gonna offer them anymore, and you won't be able to get it. Like 100% that's gonna happen. So anyone heard of Warren Buffett?
Yeah.
What company does he own?
Berkshire.
Berkshire.
Berkshire Hathaway,
Oh, no,
that's
when
right.
he started real estate companies too.
Yes, yeah, because he has real estate as well. He's known as a value investor, which means that he looks for stuff that is on sale. So he goes to Winners to buy his stocks, and then he buys them. Now, he gave an interview, and in the interview, Tony Robbins asked him, when you leave your estate to your wife, what are your investment instructions to her? That's what he said. He said 10% short-term bonds and 90% index funds. He owns a finance company that sells mutual funds to people, and he said to his, you know, he said do.
Oh, no, go back.
Oh, so okay, I just want to play this for one
Oh,
second here.
The bad years, the crisis years, the Dow dropped by about 50%. And since then, it's, you know, and people panicked and got out, of course, even in the mutual fund business, and particularly in the ETF business, a lot of net liquidations at the lows. And now we're back. I think the gain from that level is maybe 200%. So it shows you that when you act on the emotions of the marketplace, you're making a big mistake. You know, I stay, and always have said, stay the course, don't let these changes in the market, even the big one, that was a 50% decline, don't let that change your mind, and never, never, never be in or out of the market. Always be in at a certain level, and you know, you may want to be 50% in stocks like I am, you may want to be 75% or 25%, that's probably a decent range, but never be out and think you can get back in, because your emotions will defeat you totally.
He died a couple years ago.
Here, like, he's more than, older than 90 years old.
Yeah, he's really old.
He died at age 89.
No, it's nice, it's nice.
legacy that are important to separate. So far, everybody's talking about what he's invented in terms of the no-load fund, in terms of the index investing. And that was brilliant. And he really did bring capitalism to the common person. It was a fantastic revolution, controversial when he brought it out. But it's sort of a kind of a three-partite stand to this. There's a trilogy of qualities, because in addition to his contributions, which are enormous, revolutionizing investing, his career was a remarkable career as an entrepreneur, what he created, and then the idea of character is he understood resilience from adversity, the way so few are candid with this.
I loved him so much. He was the most anti-Wall Streeter I've ever seen. It is remarkable how antithetical he was. He basically said, you don't need anybody. Here's the democracy, and we're going to cut fees. Not only we have one idea, but he had two. You don't need anybody, and we're going to give you a low fee. I don't know. When someone passes away, I know I should be more sad about it. I want to celebrate this guy's life because he's a friend, and he's amazing, and Vanguard is an incredible institution.
So,
We can go to the previous one.
So Jack Bogle in 1976 started indexed funds.
Socially responsible investing, ESG, it's emerging as one of the main themes at Davos. This is Paul Tudor Jones this morning on Squawk.
So so when I talk about like the funds and I talk about paying MERs, in 1976, right, he's like, you know what, Wall Street investing, I don't want it to be elitist anymore. I want like everybody to be able to invest. So we're gonna make an index fund. We're not gonna charge very much, like virtually no fees. So Vanguard fees, if you start looking at them, they're some of the best performance fees, like performance funds. And they're all index funds, so they all have low MERs, right? You know, and RBC has some amazing index funds as well, but this guy was like it's a father of index fund. Like he changed the business, right? And like people hated him, like, how are we gonna make so much money? How are we gonna charge all these people? And you're not charging people, right? Yeah, he was a blue suit and different. So really guys, the last seven, do you remember what movie this is from? Do it now. What was
Step 6?
Step 6 was invest like the 0.001%. I will email you guys a cheat sheet on this, okay?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So basically, step 7 is do it. Like do it now, right? Just save more money, right? And if you have a lot of debt, right, then think of how you're gonna pay it off, how you can save more, and there's a couple strategies and things that, you know, we can send you on that. But just save more money, right? And if you have saved money, take a look at what you've saved and keep those basic principles in mind, right? So any questions about that, Anna?
Just a remark, I want to say I went through that financial stress because I moved from communist country, nobody taught you, it was like salary fixed and the expenses were covering everything. I went through that stress twice in my 22 years in Canada. It's nightmare, sleepless nights, scandals, like almost ruined my whole family, like I mean between me and my husband. And that's why like finally in 2015 I learned how to choose. Since then I'm just watching, but it was so stressful, it was, oh my God.
Yeah, and you know what, like we get stressed about the stuff that we don't know, right? And there's no reason why we can't know a little bit more about it, right? You know, and you don't have to be like amazing at it and read like a whole bunch of books about it, but just the basic principles of it, so that when you're talking to somebody, you know, who's in that world, you're sort of on, you know, even field. You're like, whoa, wait a minute, you're putting me in a upfront low Clarington fund, you're gonna charge me an MER and it hasn't beat the index in 15 years? And I'm a banker, right? Like I have a degree in finance and joint in finance and economics. I have a joint honors degree, okay? Just saying, right?
I feel so empowered after this.
Yeah.
I feel really, really good.
That's great.
Right time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Jeff is gonna do our commercial.
Oh, Jeff.
So now I get to be the
Now
bad
you
guy.
get to be the good guy.
Oh, the good guy. Okay. So one, Jennifer, thank you for having us here. And I know you had asked us earlier to introduce ourselves, and I haven't had the opportunity. I know most of you know Steph and have worked with her for the last little while, but my name is Jeff Burgess. I am married, 3 kids. I live and work in the same community as all of you. I've worked for RBC for over 20 years. Prior to this role, 4 years ago I got into this role, I was a branch manager for 7 years. So from the customer service aspect, how to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace, I can certainly appreciate that. And we work collaboratively with all of you. So, you know, why do you really want to choose RBC more so than anybody else? Is because we actually get the job done, believe it or not. We have a lot of specialty programs for self-employed people, wealth accumulators, newcomers to Canada, that we have the years of experience that we can draw upon ourselves to actually underwrite and prepare those deals for credit. And if for any reason that Steph and I cannot get that application approved, we have something that's called Alternative Mortgage Solutions. So has anybody heard of Alternative Mortgage Solutions before? Some of you have? Great. So Alternative Mortgage Solutions will be able to obtain financing for your clients should RBC not be able to fit. So if the deal doesn't necessarily fit into our buckets, we will be able to get that deal. So what does that mean for you guys?
A done deal.
Yeah.
It's that you guys are getting paid.
And it's an RBC employee, so they don't charge broker fees to that client. And they use the same software that we use, so it's the same application. So we just say, hey, this deal's not gonna fly, they wanna put 20% down, and they don't have any provable self-employed income. Like, we can do a self-employed at 35%, if they wanna put 20, then we give it to our guy Sean, and he gets it approved.
Does he is he getting private money, or where
No,
does that money coming from?
So he usually works, so coincidentally, Royal Bank is the largest provider of home trust mortgages in Canada. More than combined all the independent brokerages. We do a massive amount of funding with Home Trust and Equitable Bank. As a result of that, they get better pricing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because it's funneled through us, it's like we're buying in bulk,
Yeah.
so they're able to pass those savings on to the client as well.
We're their biggest and most important customer of Equitable Bank and Home Trust, right? Which are the largest providers of B lending. So it's powerful.
Yeah, and all those last minute deals, I mean, who's had a deal fall through at the last minute because of financing?
Usually not on our end,
Mhm.
usually it's the higher end
Yeah.
of the deal.
But it will ultimately impact you guys as well, right?
Yeah,
So,
of course.
you know, unfortunately, it does happen, but if there is any potential buyers that you have that have gone to another financial institution and they couldn't obtain financing, we will be able to locate a lender for them. Okay, so really at the end of the day, it's helping you guys close your business.
Like, the biggest thing too is that, like, with our software and how quickly we can put deals together, like, it can be done, like, I mean, not that we like to do this, but, you know, we've had a deal approved and funded within 48 hours, right? Like, believe me, we're not doing anything else but watching that deal and babysitting it the whole time. But that's like the capability, right, of working with a financial institution like that. And people think, oh, well, you know, the bank only likes like perfect clients with perfect this and credit. Not true. We're the only equity lender on the A side.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing.
yeah. And most people who are self-employed have very strong equity positions in their homes, don't show a lot of income, including real estate agents, right? But we do those deals, and guess what? You get to get lower than 3%, right? Rather than paying 4 or 5% or paying a broker fee, right?
The other thing we do is we provide firm and final approval. So if your client gets approved with us today, and that mortgage is in closing for 4 months from now, they will be approved. So if there's loss of income, so if somebody just loses their job, or they bought a Maserati for whatever reason, we do not re-qualify just before closing.
What
Okay?
if the market took it, like, back in 2017 with the 33% from before buyer's
Doesn't
tax?
matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter?
We
So
ordered-
now that you will 100% close it, what if it didn't appraise out What if the appraiser sent out reappraises, like they were doing with these second appraisers?
we'll do an escalation
Yeah.
on it, but if it's within 5% that it's off,
What if it's 30? Like
yeah,
some of them
we would do
Yeah, so-
another appraisal. But to that point,
Yeah.
that's why you wanna send our clients first to us, because it would be a firm approval. So what you're probably talking about is back in 2017, people were buying all that new construction around Green Lane and Newmarket and everything else. And then people were coming, 18 months later, 2 years later, and they wanted to get the mortgage, but they couldn't because the appraiser was down.
There's those as well,
Those
yeah.
deals, if we do the deal, we do the appraisal up front at the time of the purchase price. So it gets appraised at 1.2 million of what they paid,
What's
right?
interesting was, there was lenders, I don't think it was RBC, but there was lenders that, like, these are, resale homes. So what they were doing is, like, let's say they bought it in February, March, but the closing was June, and they'd already done their financing, the appraiser had been sent in, they were sending a second appraiser, where now it was down, like, dramatically, and then the bank, because now the person can't come up with that extra 200 or whatever it was, because it was huge,
Yeah.
the deals were falling apart and they weren't able to close.
So we would never
So,
do that
yeah.
because it's
You
a
would
firm
send
approval.
second
No,
appraisal.
no.
Okay.
We don't even
Never.
ask for another
Never.
pay stub, right?
Yes.
We don't even pull
Yeah.
another credit bureau. We
So
leave it alone.
Maserati before
Yeah.
closing.
That's
right.
That's fantastic.
Once it's done, it's done. Now, if you
Yeah.
come back and you wanna make material changes to the application, then yes, we may ask for some additional documentation. But, and if they say yes, but by the way, I've lost my job or whatever, and we know that certain things are gonna have to happen, we're like, you know what? Let's not add that extra 5,000 that you added for upgrades. Let's just leave the application alone because the market has done this and this, right? But that's the thing of dealing with like professionals that do like hundreds of deals, like, and I'm talking hundreds of deals a year, right?
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Now, what's going on with the market right now, like, from your perspective with mortgages and interest rates and everything else? What do you see sort of projecting going forward into 2020?
I personally, I work closely with Dominion Securities right across the street, so,
Yeah.
and Steph does as well in your office. What we're hearing is that interest rates are going to remain pretty much the same for 2020. We may see a slight decrease in the fixed rate market. The variable rate, we're still unsure at this point in time what it's going to do, but you can rest assured that rates will be sub 3%, most likely for the rest of the summer, right? Which is great for
that's
buyers.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, and often in the spring, we have incentives that come out to clients, so we were doing, it was, if you bought, it was like a $2,000 cash on top of the low mortgage rate when the mortgage balance was over 500. There's always like incentives that we're always doing, and then we'll send out to you guys just to sort of, to let you know. But I think that the same thing is, and also maybe Jeff just talk a little bit about leveraging the brand, right, and the RBC branches and how that can help these guys.
Yeah, so I mean, the other thing that we can do is we can actually set up realtor days in branch. So with co-branding, we take your lovely pictures and we put it beside ours, and we can actually list your listings in branch. We can actually have you come into the unit, set up a table so that you have access to our 20,000 clients that walk into the branch every single month. So it just gives you free marketing as well, that you can,
Does anyone door knock here?
Yeah.
flyers.
So if you're door knocking, why not come to our door and let them open the door and just stand there and talk to them, right? And you don't have to wear a card
What
back
door in your place?
Sit in the
What's
branch.
the address?
Yep.
It's for the branch.
at the branch, yeah, yeah,
So you're talking about Keswick branch? or-
yeah,
Could be.
yeah, absolutely, so,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
also realtor sheets that we can do, so when you have a new listing, we actually can put a realtor sheet together for you with the actual interest rates,
Yes.
minimum down payments, etc., that you can set up at your open houses,
yeah,
right? And
Or-
if you have to, we do have open houses too.
yeah.
We'll give you
And,
company.
I don't do open houses anymore, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've started, maybe I should have said that.
I
so.
do, no, but, what I was gonna say about that too is that even if, you can also put your listings in the branch by the bank machine. We have these boards, right? And so you can advertise your listing right by the bank machine. And even if it's a listing that you don't have anymore, just put it in there anyway, because we get up to 20,000 people a month going into a bank machine lobby. And what do you do when you're in the bank machine lobby?
Are we allowed to,
You're
yeah, we'll
waiting.
have to talk to them.
Just talk to us first, let
Yeah.
us know where you wanna go, and then we'll clear it with the branch manager. But I mean, that's like free advertising for you, right? So, cause people sit there in the lobby and they're waiting for the other person.
Or there's nosy neighbors, believe it or not. They just wanna see, well, is that my neighbor's house that's up there? Who
So
are they
then-
working with?
Yeah, so think about this, it's like, oh, I keep seeing Anna's thing, it's like in Keswick, and like, you know what I mean, it's kind of name recognition, and we know advertising is super expensive, right? So, you know, it's just like little things to kind of, to help. The other thing is too, we also get a lot of leads on our database system, right? So we get first time buyers, we get all these electronic leads. And these are often like very warm leads, right? And guess what the first thing is that we say when we sit down with the home buyer? Are you working with the realtor? And guess what? If they're not, we're like, okay,
Would you like to?
can I'd like to refer you to a real estate professional that, you know, I work really well with and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay. And they're like, okay, that's great, right? So the type of advice and this type of information and everything, like, this is like how committed we are to like being really, really good at our job and like really caring about people, right? It's not just about putting people in mortgages and things like that. It's really about giving them really good financial advice. So when people do sit down with us and they go through pre-qualification, there's a lot of education, right? And I'm sure that you guys can tell that I am passionate about educating, right? And so when we say go to, you know, Angela or, you know, go to Sheila or go to Jennifer, people are like, okay, and they call them.
Question, we're not
Yeah.
sending them to you only because of the mortgage. We can also, when questions got, yes, let's say our client don't have mortgage. We can also say, do you guys wanna use the equity from the house to?
We do this anyway, like, yeah.
Because what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
speaking to our, so that, do you have an extra money that you don't know where to put to, right?
It's even, should we be selling the property?
Yeah.
So we just did one of those, should we be selling it? If you're gonna go
That's
and
a bunch
purchase
of
another property
investment,
out west,
Yeah,
But I'm
like
talking about
like,
even-
what's his name, or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Can't
I can't, yeah,
represent.
Girage or
Yeah,
whatever his
exactly.
name is, yeah, and
so
I was
that's
like,
what it is.
yeah.
We're putting a lease up instead of selling that property,
No,
so I
no,
went.
I'm not talking about the properties, I'm talking about even like how to, the same like we learned today, to say like, do you know how to use
Yeah.
the money that you have an extra, whatever?
Yeah, I think it's sending it to, then you're really setting them to a financial planner, right,
Yes,
within
yes,
RBC.
yes.
Yeah.
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 yeah, and unfortunately, our investment retirement planner, she's like the guru of investments as to what we are to mortgages, is, she had a previous, arrangement, but what I think would be kind of cool is maybe like in a month or something, is for you guys to have a follow-up with her where she could do an actual presentation where she could actually walk through the actual, so how you could actually calculate your numbers and how much you actually need to invest, right, in order to reach some of the financial plans, so that she could actually do that, right? So that would be
Yeah.
like a cool
We could, you're
follow-up.
right, though, we
And
could
if
open
you-
it up
if you
even
get
to
some
clients.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like, so have it, like, team is welcome to join and to bring
Yeah.
clients as well,
Yeah.
cause it'd be an awesome
And do it
summer.
here, let's say.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
we can
Yeah.
fill a room easy.
Jeff, how long does it take you to prepare those, those, sheets, like
The
all
realtor
the
sheets?
Yeah, if, let's say the open house is next, like Saturday, right, so how soon?
It
Yeah.
takes like 20
That's a
minutes.
great question,
Next
yeah.
Saturday, yes.
Yeah.
So if it's on the Saturday and we know that we're doing an open house already on Tuesday, let's say, so should we send you an email right away saying like we're doing an I'm doing an open house at this particular listing?
Yeah.
Will it-
And if you send the link, like the link,
The realtor, you have to send me the
Picture.
realtor MLS listing, like
because
you
we
would
can
to
take
your
the
clients.
picture,
The
the
listing
picture.
itself?
Yeah,
or-
we
The
would take a
broker
picture of
copy or
the
the client copy?
client
Real-
copy,
Like,
the client copy. Everything you send the client, just send to
Because
us.
I used those in the past when I started, it's pretty
Yeah.
useful, especially first time buyers that.
Yeah, it opens our eyes, but to answer your question, essentially, as long as we have your picture already on file and we have the company logo, which I'm pretty sure we do,
Yeah, we do.
20 minutes, 30 minutes to do a rate sheet.
Yeah,
I'll
we'll
have it
email you
emailed
the
right back to you.
PDF,
This
co-brand it with your information, and then you can print them.
Yeah, I mean, if we're in an appointment, it might take an hour, because we gotta finish the previous one, but realistically, 15 minutes, no more than that for us to do a sheet for you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys.
Anybody have any questions? I
I just have a question for like the first time home buyers. Is there any way I can actually come in and just understand the whole process of what the clients are going through so I can explain it better to them?
Absolutely.
I would love that.
Yeah.
You know, even better, can you go, but videotape it, ask questions? And then that becomes a video that can be shared in terms of this, are you a first time home buyer? If you're working with RBC, you know, who's our partner, these are the kinds of things that, this is gonna be your experience, right? That's a great idea.
It's the same like on the cars, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
So send me an email and then we could do that,
Yeah,
right?
so
Or
great.
if you even wanna sit in with your buyer, or maybe you've got, you know, a young person or someone in your family or something and you wanna sit in with them and kinda watch like how it goes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Actually, you are a first time home buyer.
We will be.
You both are.
Neither
So
of
this
us
is
have been
perfect.
through the
Yeah.
process.
Oh, yeah.
So
So
that's
that's
why I want to
amazing.
understand the
Yeah.
process. so we
Nice.
can
Yeah.
explain it better.
Yeah.
And then we can put these videos in our
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Plus then they can use it for promotion as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Jeff,
No, for
I
sure.
saw it on your card, you're a mobile mortgage specialist, does that mean you will go to people's homes and sit down?
I
Does that
do
mean-
go to people's homes from time to time. Generally, it would be just to sign documents or to gather documents. I don't necessarily like loading applications in people's houses because it takes a little bit of time. But yes, we both are mobile. We will travel outside of our normal area. Yeah.
What is your area, your primary area you focus on?
Myself personally is York Region. I do deals in Toronto. I've done, Steph and I are both licensed. We can do BC,
Everywhere.
Newfoundland,
Yeah.
anywhere in Canada. Primarily though is Newmarket, Aurora, East Gwillimbury,
How about the US?
Georgina.
We have a branch that does US mortgages, so we have US mortgage specialists, so we refer them to that.
Very.
Yeah.
Barrie, absolutely, yeah. My parents live west of Barrie, so yeah, I'm up there frequently too.
Vegas?
Yeah, no, for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like I've gone to Innisfil, like everywhere, to like Collingwood, right? Where it kind of needs to be.
One point I wanted to, like you mentioned it before, and I'm surprised you mentioned it. When Steven was 10 years old, and I started to educate him about like where the money go. When he said, "I want to buy this," I said, "No, I cannot." "I want to buy this." "No, we cannot. We cannot afford it." And he said, like, "How come? You and Dad work?" He said, "Okay, let's sit down and I'll show you all the numbers." And also, "What is mortgage?" I said, "This is the mortgage." "What is this?" "This is for this." And then he started to understand.
Yeah, because kids know like adding and subtracting, right?
And after that, he said like, okay, when he wanted something, "Mom, can you buy it now?" "Sorry, no, we have to wait."
Yeah. So you know, if you do have children, it's important to have that like discussion. You know, and just like I said, I mean, so I do have a daughter, like, and she is amazing. Like, I had this conversation with her about a credit card. She goes, "Mom, are you crazy? I will never pay a single cent on credit card interest." And you know what? And she is like a total saver, right? So she, you know, luckily didn't see my earlier bad habits because she was too young. But you know, now it's clued in, right? And so she's got it, and she, you know, put a deposit down on a condo, and you know, it's going to be built in a few years. But like, she's getting it, right? So it is good, right? But no matter what it is that you are, you can always be better. You can be different, even if you're like super amazing. And I thought that I was doing really, really well. But I'm totally not bullshitting you about that IA Clarington Fund. Like, I've got my notes in my book. As I was reading the book, I looked it up and I sold that fund, so I actually don't hold it. And I hadn't. Like I said, I'm in the industry, right?
As of 21st of December 2019.
Yeah.
You had that date there.
That
Yeah.
was the statement date, yeah.
Yeah, I had it then. It was not that long ago, right? So,
So good.
yeah. So anyway, thank you guys.
Yes,
thank you
so much.
So I have a gift for you guys.
So I have to get you some because I didn't know you were
Aw.
here, and I
That's okay.
apologize.
Oh,
That's for
thank you.
No.
No.
We'll
I
share it.
appreciate
We share
the
everything.
opportunity coming here, no.
We share everything.
Yeah.
So this is the book that I read that kind of changed my life. I love Tony Robbins. He has so much. He has so much good stuff in here. So this is like 600 pages, so I don't know if you guys as a team, you guys wanna pass the book around, or the other thing I can do is I did take a business card from everybody in that basket, and then I can draw it, and then you guys can just sort of share it, and pass it on to each other. Master of money. So Jeff, make there's pieces of paper in there, cause it looks like some of your cards. And Gary, if you're not here to
If you're not
win,
here, you don't get it.
you don't get it.
Yeah, cause he won everything yesterday.
What is it? Is it Gary?
No, it's Deanna. Deanna.
Dan is not
Deanna.
here.
Oh no? Oh, she's not
She's
here.
left?
Yeah. Too bad. So sad.
Still alive, still alive.
Moving on.
It was that one. Laura.
I know.
Time to start.
It was.
We'll share after.
Yeah.
So
This was so great, thank you.
We should start creating our small library in the office, like the amazing books, especially great.
Yeah, and I was gonna say to you guys too.
It's
when-
600 pages, so.
Yeah,
And when she does, what we should do is add that one in. So let Juan and Kim film it, and then prepare the questions that'll get asked. Then we'll ask the questions, and then you guys are gonna answer the questions.
Sure.
Get a picture.
Yeah. Oh, Stephanie, all of you.
Okay, every picture of you guys. Oh.
No.
Steph and Jeff.
Oh.
Have
It
Steph.
sounds like Steph and Jeff.
Steph and Jeff.
Jennifer Jones Team, financially investing with you to get your home sold, help you find your new home. Jennifer Jones Team, financially investing, the team that's right for you. Jennifer Jones Team, financially investing with you to get your home sold, help you find your new home. Jennifer Jones Team, financially investing, the team that's right for you.